All right, everybody. It's the Jere Metcalf podcast where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today on the show, we have Brian Tran with 50 Hills in San Francisco. 50 Hills is it Brokerage, or we just call it 50 Hills?
Yeah, just call it 50 Hills.
That's what I like that. But it is a real estate brokerage in San Francisco. Brian, thanks for being on.
I appreciate it. I'm glad to be on.
So Brian was introduced to us on the show, everybody, by Tim Stout. He is one of our favorites, especially our editor's favorite. Like of all the shows, Rocon's like, Jere, I like that Tim. So when he told us we had to have you on, Brian, like there was no resisting it. So thank you for being on.
I appreciate it.
You are not even 30 yet. Let's start with I think you're on the cover now, or you're about to be on the cover of the National Association of Realtors Magazine.
Yeah, I'm on cover now, and they put me at the top, which is great because then you don't get cut off by the senders list or where they put the sticker on. So they put me at the prime real estate of that cover.
I love it. I love it. So 30 under 30 National Association of Realtors. Just tell us a little bit about how you got that spot and about yourself.
Every year when I got into the business pretty young. I got into the business when I was 21 years old. And I knew about the 30 under 30 from the day that I got in the business, but I never really applied because I would read the cover and I would read the stories of every, person who won. And it was just so impressive that I was like, I don't deserve this, right? Like it's too much. But this year, 2020 was COVID, and San Francisco was hit really hard. And I sell a lot of luxury condos. So my sales literally went from on pace to do 80 million in 2020. And then COVID happened, 2 months, no work. And I was like, oh, shoot, what's going to happen? But we pulled through and we dominated 2020. We shifted it and grew the team, did better than we expected. And then I was like, okay, I think this is worth applying for the NAR 30 under 30. And then luckily, my first time applying and I actually got it. So super happy. I was shocked. Mm-hmm.
So tell us, I want to learn about what you did in COVID, especially in your market. They didn't make it easy. But before we do that, tell us how you got into the business and why real estate. And you were only 21, right?
Yeah. So it was pretty easy because my brother was actually, he got into the business before me. He's about 4 years older, and he got his broker's license when he was 22 or something like that. And so he came in and started doing it. And during college, school is not for me. I don't like school and I don't do well. I finished, but I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I saw him sell real estate and I said, you know what? Why not? I think it's kind of fun. People say I talk a lot. People say I can do it, even though real estate is so much more than just walking around and talking and showing houses. But, I jumped in, joined Mike Ferry, and the rest is history, and did well. And I'm continuing to still grow.
So your brother was doing it, but I have a feeling he didn't just give you deals. You probably had to make your way.
No, he wasn't, we started off in Oakland, which is the neighboring city of San Francisco. And during the 2012-13, the market was still kind of not so good. And so that's why we joined Mike Ferry right away. And we started cold calling. Expired.
Oh my God, I love it.
Door knocking. I love it. And can you imagine a 21-year-old door knocking? It was scary, And
So this is coming from the realtor who tried it and failed miserably at it and found another way. So tell me about it. How'd that look? What happened?
The door knocking, not so good because, we were door knocking in some of the not so pretty neighborhoods.
But guns are illegal there. So that helps.
Yeah.
Or guns are outlawed, right? In Georgia, you just get shot. I'm kidding. Yeah. Very politically incorrect now, but go ahead.
But we, Mike Ferry was big on Red X. We got on Red X and and during that time, there were so many expired listings.
Wow. Wait, Paul. Okay. So what year was that? What year?
2013.
Okay. So 2013. So Red X, for those of us who don't know, believe it or not, a lot of our listeners don't know. I think Red X is a system that gives you the phone numbers of the owners when the listings get expired.
Yep.
So you go in and you're dialing everybody. What happened?
We had a board and you had your scripts. You had your scripts.
Right. I love it.
You had your expired scripts. And I remember this. When I started, I was so bad. You only get good when you practice and then you internalize the script. But when I first started, it was like this. Hi, my name is Brian. I'm looking for the owner.
Well,
Are
did
you
you get
the
that
owner?
far?
You know, like
Get
it was
that far?
terrible.
Did you get
Huh?
that far before they hung up?
I
I
mean,
didn't
the
even know that
first,
script. It was
it
probably
got,
like, hi, my name's Brian.
it was terrible. It
What
was,
happened?
my script was,
So what is it? So I love that. Like, hi, my name's Brian. This is where I go like, oh my God, poor kid. What do I do? So where did you go from that to like actually being good at this? Or what happened? Did you get good at it?
yeah, you do. So, you know,
Okay.
the more you do things, repetition makes you a master. Whenever you master your craft, then you started role playing with other agents. And during the Mike Ferry organization, he was big on waking up at 5 a.m., 6 o'clock, you have to start role playing. And then by 7:30, you're in the office. And then, you know, then you start cold calling between 8 to 12, right?
Yeah.
Tough. But then you get better. You stop saying, hi, my name is Brian. And you go, hey, is Jere there? And then, you know, obviously if it's them, they say yes. And you just, hey, you know, I see you had a property at 123 Banana Street. It looks like it went off market. Are you still interested in selling? And it becomes more natural. Once you internalize the script, it's a conversation, correct?
So here's the funny thing. Some of my best friends in this business are great cold callers, but I am like the anti. So this is going to be a really good learning experience for us. So what was your biggest lesson in success in all, like big picture, biggest lesson in success you got from that? Because it sounds like that's really kind of like this, what broke you in and got you into the industry, and even learning just the
So
market.
much the cold calling part, but it was a structure. It was whatever it was that got you clients, you just have to do it, right? And you have to put it on your calendar. You have to be religious about it. So if I say the one key thing with success that Mike Ferry taught us was discipline and integrity. If you say you're going to do something, do it. You know, don't say just to say it, right? Because sometimes we get coaching and you don't want to look bad in front of your coach. So you might lie and say, yeah, I made 100 calls today, but then you made no money because you didn't actually make 100 calls. Yeah. So that's just what it was. I mean, I don't cold call too much anymore.
That were you like read my mind, but keep.
Yeah.
So what do you look like? So breaking into the industry, cold calling, and then from cold calling, you win a few deals. Did you win a few listings? Did you get like, what were the results of cold calling? And then I want to transition into breaking into 80 million and over and what that started looking like.
Always listings. Mike Ferry was listings. And today, every coach will tell you listing, because it's leverage. So cold calling ended up moving. I changed market. I moved into San Francisco, and that was tough. Coming from Oakland to San Francisco was a different animal, a different beast. Yeah. Price points were significantly higher. I was dealing with more sophisticated people. I'm 21, 22-year-old by now. Wow. You know, English, not so good. Pronunciation.
Oh, wow. See, I didn't think about that.
You know, because
but English is not your first language. You said English.
It's not, but my English is good. But the thing is that when you're
that's impressive. Wow.
Yeah, when you're dealing with a $2 million homeowner or a buyer, they speak differently, right?
So, Brian, so let's pat and pause. Like you said, so English is not your first language.
No. Okay, I'm born here, but growing up, we spoke Vietnamese the whole time.
Okay, so your first language is Vietnamese. See, this is what I love. Like people don't even know what their superpowers are because there are superpowers. You break into this business, you break into it through cold calls. English isn't even your first language. You're doing this in English. And then you come in and now you're breaking into the San Francisco market with a whole new buyer, with a whole new language of.
Well, I wouldn't say, I speak English. You know, if I grew up speaking English, but later on, but you know, it's my English wasn't like super sophisticated, right? Gotcha. And so
you grew up with a Vietnamese family in Oakland, is that right?
In where? In Oakland.
You grew up in Oakland?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you come into, so anyway, keep going with San Francisco because I love this.
And so what did I do? I don't know anybody in San Francisco. I didn't grow up here. I don't have friends. And so you have to build that network. And I went right to cold calling and then open houses. And then, you know, just being there, right? Like I would go to every event, every networking event. I didn't care what meetup, what it was. I was just everywhere. And so people begin to know who I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you came in not knowing anybody. What did you have those moments where you're like, this is never going to happen? Am I kidding myself?
No, no,
Not. And
because
then go ahead.
I suffer from having a lot of self-confidence.
You suffer
uh,
from that. I wouldn't call it. That doesn't
so
seem like
I mean,
suffering.
there's no failing. And I think I said
Love
this
it.
in the 30 under 30. I've seen my parents come here. They lost everything. They built up, their little empire. And if they can do it and they don't speak English, I can do this. This isn't hard.
Say
Yes, it
that
was,
again. Say that again, because that's so powerful.
yeah, it's
You watched your parents. So how old were you? Were you born here or did you come here with
I was
them?
born here. Yeah, I was born here.
What year?
91.
So 91, you were born, but you grew up with parents who had just come here with nothing. So you were parents who were building from nothing, building their life.
Yep.
And you came out of that to build your life. And look at where you are now.
I'm pretty good. I'm comfortable. I'm very happy, but we have a lot of work to do still. I will say that.
So you're not doing bad on the cover of NAR and you're doing close to 100 million a year.
We should get close this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get close. Yeah.
And one of the most competitive markets that the country has to offer, by the way. I think everybody there has a real estate license.
Yeah, I think there's 6,000 agents in SFAR alone, the San Francisco Association of Realtors. So, every listing I go out on, there's a cousin or there's a friend who's also a realtor. And so it's, but I like competition.
I love it. Exactly. So what gave you that? Most people in that situation would just go, hey, I'll just get a job so I know I'm getting money. Because there's no backup plan. What was the backup plan?
There was none.
So what gave you, obviously you suffer from confidence, but what gave you that?
Growing up, I always knew I was going to make it, and I'm not saying I've made it. Like I said, I have big dreams and big hopes, and I want the best for my family, and I constantly am chasing growth, but whatever I set my mind to, I usually get it done. Like I become obsessed. I become so obsessed that you literally cannot fail.
So there are a few. Oh, sorry, y'all. I'm working on my stand-up desk today, and it's moving around. Oh, well, I can tell. So a few things. We started out with you're not even 30 yet. You're 30 under 30 with the National Association of Realtors. You just started a brokerage called 50 Hills, and some of the things that I'm hearing are behind that have been structure, discipline, integrity, and oh, by the way, being obsessed.
Mm-hmm.
And being stricken with a lot of self-confidence.
Yeah. And the self-confidence comes from being obsessive. I mean, I understand that not everybody, and so like, for those of the listeners are like, well, I wasn't lucky to have self-confidence. Well, the thing is that confidence comes from becoming a master at your craft, right? Mm-hmm. Becoming so good at what you do that you just have, the confidence will come. If you're so good at what you do, the confidence will be there, right? And so I hope that for those who are listening, it's that when you become so natural at it, you're going to be naturally confident, right?
Well, here's a question. I find that San Francisco is probably a rather intimidating market. That market you're talking about multiple offers on pretty much every listing. You've got an incredible price trajectory. You've got everybody after it. You've got multi-million. I don't know the average sales price in San Francisco, but I know, property for a few $1 million is not unusual relative to other markets.
Correct.
So in dealing with that caliber, demographic, whatever you want to call it, what is that like? And how do you, again, give us some experiences you've had in breaking into that market and in breaking into your level of success?
So I've gotten to the point where I'm so numb to it that when somebody says $1 million and they say that's a lot of money, I kind of look and say, no, it's not. It's just one with a bunch of zeros, right? So that's the first thing. Don't put it on a pedestal. Whether you sell a $400,000 home or $1 million home, I try to treat it as the same. I'm going to do the best that I can, right? I'm going to market it correctly. I'm going to give it the luxury presence that it needs, right? But going into the skill set, it does require a little bit more skills. There's more hand holding. There's more higher expectations, right? But if you just, but if you come in with high standards, it's going to be the same. It's going to be natural to you, right? I think the problem with it, that when I speak with other agents and they come in and they say, oh, I can't sell a $3 million home. I can't sell a $2 million home. Why not? It's just treat it the same, do a good job, come in with that mindset, that mentality, and you're going to be successful.
Well, serve the less expensive homes, like the more expensive homes, and just keep doing that. And it keeps bringing you up to the next notch. Always dress for the job you want and deliver to the job you want.
Yeah.
So
I wore a suit for the longest time. I mean, COVID now, people don't wear suits anymore, but San Francisco, I always showed up suit and tie.
Yeah.
Not so much anymore.
Yeah.
During the time, I had 10 suits upstairs and probably a gajillion ties, and you could show up to impress. And you really had to at 21, 22, even 23. I got a baby face. And so it's like, you got to gain people's trust. And the way you look, the way you talk, the way you hold yourself up is how they're going to, perceive you and how you're going to showcase their home.
I mean, what a valuable lesson, especially, not only being in your 20s, but being in your early 20s at the time. And again, I'm going to just be politically incorrect because I seem to be so good at that, but your generation, I mean, you guys you're a Gen Zer. Are you you're a millennial.
Millennial.
Yeah, those are the bad ones. The Gen Zers might be okay, but those millennials, I don't know. I keep hearing that they're not really into hard work. Is that true?
I don't know. I focus on what I need to do.
I love it. You don't have time for that.
I focus on what, they can try to classify me, but you can't classify me because I know what I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not lazy. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'll do whatever it takes to get the job done. That's me. And so when people try to put me in the millennial stage, I say, I don't even know what that is.
It's great.
But here's who I am.
Yeah, exactly. So we talked before we came on or started recording, we were talking about your business and how, it's, as we all know, this business kind of requires you to be on all the time. And you are now, being in your generation probably helps, to the Gen Zers, or not the Geners, the Gen Xers like me, or the baby boomers. It's like, oh, they have magic powers. So we're going to talk about some of those magic powers. You've created some systems where you've been able to really serve the clients, but you personally have found ways to leverage and be able to better serve clients by doing that, and actually get a minute to breathe, because that also helps us be ready to better serve clients. Tell us a little about it.
So first off, I think, Tim's my coach, right? And he's been on the podcast before. Systems, and systems isn't, some magic formula. It's just, okay, this comes in, what needs to happen, right? If you do that, then it eliminates a couple things, right? Error, it eliminates error, and it maximizes efficiency, right? Once you create a system, you can then hire people to execute on the system. And that's really the secret. So that's the technology, right? Technology isn't like a website or an app that's going to make your life easier. And I do use a couple of apps that make things a little bit more efficient, but I wouldn't say that that's the secret. The secret is good systems, and don't be afraid to put money back into your business to hire people to execute your system, right? And that can come in many forms. It can come in the form of admin. It can come in the form of another agent, a buyer's agent, a listing agent, a transaction coordinator. But for me personally, I utilize virtual assistants.
So break this down first. So just to repeat, everybody. So we're talking about, like, in this business, we're all on the phone, ready on, you never know what's going to go down. You're just ready for it. Like, we had an interview, it'll be 2 weeks before this release, with an agent who's the top agent at Sotheby's in Santa Barbara. And he said, like, I can think I have the weekend off, but it's hard to always know you have the weekend off, because we're always expected to be there. But you broke it down to, look, you've got to have your systems, you've got to have your people, and you've got to put the money into it.
Yep. Because it takes money. But
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
But here's the thing, not money alone, not people alone, and not systems alone. They all have to come together.
of course. Yeah. Otherwise, you'll become a solopreneur agent, right? And there's a lot of people guilty of it. They do a lot of business, but they're glued to their phone because they don't have somebody else taking care of it. I mean, a lot of these stuff, I know we want to think that, we are like the business can't run without us, but that's not necessarily true. With the right help, you don't always have to be there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of part of our business where we technically don't have to be there. Like whether it means meeting vendors or, meeting the photographer, getting things kind of ready, you can do a pop-in, but you can hire somebody to do that, right?
Yeah.
Really, the main thing is when people hire me, they're hiring my services, but my service doesn't necessarily mean that I'm the one going there painting the walls or, getting the things all ready, right? You can have somebody help you with that. Really what you're paying for me is that system that I've put in place, that ease, right? That white glove treatment where the whole team, you hired a whole team. You didn't just hire me. That's the thing.
Well, I was asking an agent actually just before this interview is, well, what do you delegate? She said, well, how about I just tell you what I don't delegate, because I delegate everything else. Like, it's not what you do delegate. It should be, these are the things I don't delegate, and delegate everything else. The systems, people, and money. So I know you founded this brokerage 50 Hills, and you guys, I think, really, well, I'm going to let you tell me, what is the focus? What was the purpose of starting and founding this brokerage?
Well, the main thing with starting, I never actually wanted to open our own brokerage, right? Like I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of work. A lot of headaches, recruiting, et cetera, but
liability.
Yeah, but we did it because at the end of the day, especially during COVID, the big brand brokerage just didn't mean much to us anymore. And I think we had a conversation about this, was the culture. And it just, coming into the office and then sometimes, having to walk around on your tippy toes and all that stuff just wasn't kind of cutting it out for us. And, we wanted to create a brokerage that was fun, like an area where we can come in and have agents like myself, right? Joke around, get things done and make some money and live a good life and, do good service. That's what we wanted. But now that we have the brokerage, I can be a little bit more creative. It kind of allows us to be like unchained, right? I can do a little bit more crazy stuff. And have a little bit more fun without being, worried about the corporate structure, right? But I would say the main thing, my focus today with our brokerage is that we want to give agents their time back.
So you started the brokerage for culture, but you found it's kind of like there's a book called Blue Ocean Strategy, where you come into something, this is part of the book, you come into something with one purpose. Like you go to the restaurant for the free drinks. This is one of the stories, but you stay for the great culture and food. You started a brokerage for the great culture, but you realized, wait, the big like supply and demand, there's only so much time, and the demand for our time is higher than the supply. So how can I create a system and an environment that gives agents that time back?
Right. And, a lot of brokerages will try to promise their agents like, oh, well, if you come here, we'll double your production. Right. I don't know how they all say it. We've been to multiple brokerages. We're going to grow your business.
That's our job.
But my model
our job is to grow the business. That's what we're being hired for.
Exactly. So at 50 Hills, our model is a little bit different. My job is not to grow your business. My job is not to take you from 8 to 16 million, right?
Only you can do that.
That's your job. You're an agent. You need to go out there and hunt, rack up the shotgun, go get
the stuff to be able to do it.
Yeah. My job really is to give you back time, teach you how to delegate, have the systems in place so that you're not working at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, right? There are ways to get around that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's our model.
So Brian, you're in your 20s. So tell us, I'm giving you a hard time, but I'm actually serious. I like to bust people's chops. How did you figure it out and how do you do it?
I dropped the ball multiple times.
There
And
you go. Yeah.
so, this is a real estate podcast, but I want to share with you, I own a virtual assistant company. I own 2 coffee shops in San Francisco. I own a bubble tea shop in San Francisco as well. And I
Wow.
manage a portfolio of my rentals. And then we also do some development deals, right? My partners and I, we also build, rehab, and sell homes. So there's a lot of things that go on. And, people would say, don't do all those things. Otherwise, all this stuff is going to drop. But I found by doing all these things, I became very, very efficient. I became very like a robot.
There's something interesting about all those things that you're doing. They all are interconnected to being a real estate broker.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yeah. That's why I like hiring staff.
It's like everything you do, if it feeds to the one thing, it's the one thing. If it doesn't, that's the difference. And I think perhaps why it works for you, but you were talking about hiring staff.
Yeah. So, I mean, hiring and firing is not hard for me because I've done it so many times, right? I'm so confident that's now because I do it so much, right? Like at each one of my coffee shops during its peak, now it's less because of COVID. But we had, 15 to 20 employees per store. So I have 60 people on my staff there. My company in the Philippines, the virtual assistant company, we have over 300 virtual assistants that we manage. And so we hire, we fire, and I've gotten quite good at it. I've gotten good at reading people. I've gotten good at, but again, I'm confident in it because I've done it so many times that it's my sixth sense now.
Here's a question for you. I think most luxury agents are just, it seems the DNA is just because you're very obsessed, but the DNA is being so obsessed that they're only going to do a few deals at a time because there's just every detail that they're not going to let go of. You don't do that.
No.
You've got, so what's the trick? How do you see things that you cannot be afraid to do that many things at once? Own a brokerage, run a brokerage, build these systems, hire and fire.
Hire good people and trust them. But but the thing is that people hire good people, they put trust in them, but they don't have a system in place for those people to follow, right? A system that you create. Yeah. A system that is up to your standards, a system that is going to make, that is your brand, right?
What's the difference between a system that works and one that doesn't?
That's a good question. There's no perfect system. But you have to try. And as mistakes happen, you repair it and it becomes a good system.
Perhaps that's the answer.
Yeah.
The difference is whether you're willing to continue to work on it and continue to improve it, just like yourself in life.
Exactly. And so there are things to expedite, you can copy a system through coaching or mentors, but no one system is going to work for everybody, well, maybe, but not for me, so
I love this because you've got a system built for 300 virtual assistants, but it must work okay for 300 of those. That's a lot of people to me. It's not a few thousand or million, but it's a lot.
I have good people and they manage, and there's a structure, right?
Yeah. How do you find good people?
Honestly, you just go through a lot of people until you find, and that's the trick. I mean,
that's great. That's good to know because some of us get really attached to people and don't like to let them go. So
the more you hire, the good ones stay, the bad one leaves. And then eventually you do that enough time. Now you have a team of good people. And then you promote them and then you have them run a team.
Yeah.
And then it just keeps going down. And so that's how you can really scale. It takes time, but it's
not that much time because to me, it hasn't been that long. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
It takes focus time. Focus. That's incredible. So looking at your business and what you do, now you've taken what you've learned, you're running all of these businesses very successfully, success. I mean, you're doing just as a real estate agent what most people can't do. And oh, by the way, you're running a few other businesses doing what most people can't do. What's the difference between you and most people?
I want it more.
Yeah.
I want it more.
How do
I
you
actually want it. When I say I want something, I truly mean it. And again, I don't just say, oh, I want something for the sake of it. No,
yeah.
I want to achieve it. I want to be successful. And again, I become obsessive.
But
Like,
why do you, when you want something, why do you want it?
it feeds into the big why. I have a very, my why is very powerful,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if you do things, if you have that big vision, then you just follow the path that you set forth.
What's your big why?
Well, my big why now is my family, right? And again, seeing my grandma was very well off in Vietnam. I mean, today she'd probably be a multi-millionaire. She lost everything, right? And they fled to America. And so my why is to get that back. But I want to get that back so that I can restore, her legacy, and then also provide the best life that I can for my family. And I'm talking about everybody. And I was given this, like, I'm in the best country in the world. I'm in America.
You're gonna make me cry. Seriously.
I'm in America.
Awesome.
And here's the thing, people take that for granted. We live in America. Like, I travel a lot, and I go to a lot of third world country, and it's not pretty. And so when I come here, I'm so appreciative. Like, I wake up and I can do whatever I want. And so I choose to work hard, grow my companies, help more people, because the bigger I am, the more I can help. But if I'm just a small guy working at a one company, how many people can I actually help? How many people can I impact? So you're given all this opportunity. I'm not going to waste it. So it's like, my why is a little bit crazy, but
That's an awesome why. That's the best why I've ever heard.
You just can't waste this opportunity. I know what I was given. And I think people forget that. Like, I was born into this country where I can be who I want, do what I want. I'm going to take advantage of this, and I want to be a billionaire just because I know
make more people like you, my friend.
Yeah.
Make more people like you. That's beautiful. So all of that being said, don't make me cry, because I already am, because it's just so beautiful. It's just true. It's so true. Thank you. What do you find? We'll bring it back home to the brokerage and bring it back home to 50 Hills. So in everything you've learned and everything you do, how do you take all of that, and what does it make? What does your brokerage look? Now you've just launched, you've got a very small, beautiful brokerage of agents like you who work hard and want to be here and serve and learn and grow. Yeah. What does it look like today, and what is that going to look like in the future?
So today we're going to be targeting about 100 million this year, right? And if we're going to talk about volume, that's where we're going to be. And again, I want a culture that is going to be my biggest thing is that I just want it to be fun, light, right? And like a good brokerage. I mean, I know that's so cliche, but I want good agents that care, right? Yeah. That have purpose, that have, a good heart. And then, because, this industry, I mean, we're changing people's lives. We're helping them buy, a home or an investment property. It's, we're helping create generational wealth. And so it's not just about, oh, I sold this much money. It's that, no, but it's like, okay, we help this many people. And granted, we have to talk about the 100 million, because otherwise nobody will want to listen to this podcast,
right?
But, but ultimately we're helping a lot of people. And I want agents who are like me, like my partners, that are we're chill people, right? Not competitive, no big egos.
Oh, you are competitive. We can't deny that. There's no shame in that. You are definitely competitive. When you say, or maybe not. Who am I to say what you are?
The right kind of competitive, like we're not, competitive to where like you want to just do better, and it's a fun competitive. But I've been to some other places and I've seen some agents and they're like, you're competitive in the wrong way. You're like, you'll do some crazy stuff.
There's competition to be the best and we all rise together, or there's competition just to cut throat for the sake of the ego.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I heard you say, what am I when I'm the little guy? How many people can I help when I'm the little guy?
Yeah. So,
right? That's the competitive. I would say, tell me where I'm wrong. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing and seeing now.
I think you're right. It's just, but I think there's always two spectrums, right? And I think that, I mean, the competitiveness is great.
Right.
Just
See,
not
this is the South Georgia girl talking to the San Francisco guy, but that's not going to take the first generation immigration out of you. We're not going to let it. All right. So let's talk about I'm going to repeat, not talk about. So number one, you began with, in being successful, it's structure, it's discipline, it's integrity. And by the way, all of that with a lot of obsession.
Yeah.
And in doing that and being successful, again, I want to say it one more time, structure, discipline, integrity with some obsession wrapped in there to keep you going no matter what comes your way. And in that, you implement behind that to make sure you're not just working hard, but you're working smart, systems, people, and you can't be afraid to put the money and pay into it to grow it. Because if you don't, you're just going to be a little guy. And how many people can you really help if you do that?
Man, you're so good. You nailed it.
So anything else we want to add to that?
I think that's about it, unless you any other questions, but I would like to stress.
Oh, I do. We've got the final three coming. I'm just warming you up for it. The final three.
I want to stress the integrity, though. That the integrity is what allows you to build a lasting company.
Yeah.
Because you can have all those other things, but if without integrity, how far can your company go? 1 year, 2 years? You screw a seller over, you screw a buyer over, right? Your reputation's gone. You did all that work, and your company just went gone because you just didn't have integrity. Integrity is the glue that allows you to build something that is going to last forever.
You know what I think is interesting about integrity too? Integrity is one of those things. My son asked me the other day, Mom, what's integrity? I said, son, integrity is what you do when nobody's looking and nobody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And you know why that matters? It doesn't matter if anybody ever does or doesn't find out. It doesn't matter for your reputation, like some people think. The reason why it matters is for the same reason everything matters. Integrity matters because when you do things with integrity, when you do things the right way, no matter who nobody knows and no matter who's looking, the outcome of that is so much bigger. That's why when people rise above and they come about and you're like, wow, where'd that come from? It's somebody built with integrity. You look at a car. I want a car built with integrity. I want my whatever I have in my life to have integrity. They say, oh, well, it didn't have integrity. It's because the way it was built, the things we can't see are something that creates something that has that value that survives anything and everything. And that's where that integrity in those moments of decision are everything. Again, I'm taking your podcast away from you, but the integrity, like you and I mean, I'm right there with you on integrity. I had to elaborate. But anything else about integrity? And then we're going to go in the final three.
I think we nailed it. I think that's it.
So final three. Number one, what do you find or what do you believe has been your greatest resource for being successful in life and as a real estate agent?
That's it. I think I'm going to go back to, your why. You have to establish your why first. And if that why is truly what you want and it resonates with you, then the discipline becomes easy. Then everything becomes easy. But you got to really know what it is. And it can't just be like a car or a house or anything like that. Yeah. It helps that why is a purpose, right? Yeah. So if I were to give anybody a tip, don't make your why a car, because I've had nice cars, I've had nice houses. It doesn't do it. It's there, and then you feel empty once you get it. Yeah. But when it's like a strong purpose, I mean, you just it makes you obsessive, right? And you just go towards it. So I'm gonna stick with that answer.
Yeah, I love that. And number two, book. If there is a book that's changed your life or your career that you would say we've got to read, what is it?
Oh man. There's a lot, but I think my favorite book would probably have to be The 48 Laws of Power.
Wow, that book is great, but it's dark. Now, so why? What did you get from that book? I don't know if I got through it actually.
That book just, I read that at such a young age that I read it 3 or 4 times, but it just helped me become more aware of people, right?
Yeah.
And because yes, it can be dark, but I turned it to a light side where
Exactly. Yeah.
I went through life and I kind of watched people and I took the lessons of the book, and you can apply it to business and it's very easy to, but when people apply it to you, and then it just kind of taught me how to navigate through life, cautiously.
Well, kind of growing up, sometimes we're taught when we're young that life is, I always quote Stephen Ferrara. He's an agent in New York City. I think Stephen Ferrara. Yeah. He says, it's not a quote of his, but he says, when I got into real estate, it was all rainbows and butterflies. And that book's like, hey, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. This is how the underlings of things might be going beneath the surface that you just might want to be aware of. Not that you want to be that way, but be aware of it, that it happens, and it makes a lot of sense of things. Yeah. What's your takeaway from that, though? From the book, that's a little bit of mine, but what's yours? Just to add context to it.
The takeaway was just, it basically taught me how to play chess with life.
Yeah.
It's strategy, it's techniques, it's just, I maneuver life a little bit more cautiously, thinking 5 steps ahead and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's like, that's what that book kind of, it wasn't any one thing about the book, but it was just, wow. Somebody wrote this book because they needed to win the war and all that stuff. And this is what goes through other people's mind. Right. And so
it makes sense. It brings about good. I don't like to make the negative of it either, but it does show you some of the darker, conscious or unconscious human nature that you may not have been aware of, especially when you're young.
And so because of that,
when you're older. But go ahead.
No, but because of that and realizing that, I'm like, okay, whoa. Somebody wrote a whole book on this, so you really have to navigate life and be a little bit more smart and think a couple moves ahead.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna turn it to a positive aspect.
Yeah.
After reading the book, and then obviously there's a couple of other books that kind of break, all books kind of have the same core value and everything like that. So I'm like, okay, let's be smart. Now, everything that you do, Brian, try to think a couple moves ahead in a good way. Right? Like, hey, you're going to launch this brokerage. What's next? Yeah. Oh, well, then we're going to recruit agents. What's next? Yeah. And then, so it just kind of got my mind working in a way where everything I do now, I have to think a couple moves, at least, right?
It should be. It reminds you, right? Now, I want to read the book. Why. Yep. All right, last question. If there's one thing that you would hope we remember from this interview, if this is everybody listening, if we're not going to remember anything else, what would it be?
I think especially now in all the media that you hear, I don't watch a lot of news, but it's kind of flooded.
Very good idea. Right?
I think if it's one thing, be grateful for what we have, and just do good and be good. Again, going back to integrity, going back to your why. I hope that people in this world just go out and just do good things. I keep it simple. We can all make a lot of money. We can all, but I think the main thing is just do good.
But isn't it amazing? The more you contribute to the world, the more it has to offer back to you.
Yeah.
Even when you read 48 Laws, y'all read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And here I go throwing in the y'all. But here's the thing, every time I'll do something, I'm like, why am I even doing like this podcast? Like, really? Like, who's paying me? But it's amazing what the world brings back to you every time you put it out there. The world has so much more to offer back.
Yeah. And this is good. Your podcast is doing good. It's teaching agents, it's bringing new ideas and everything. And so that's why.
And amazing people like you into my life and on my show.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. It's good to have you on the show. Everybody, Brian Tran with 50 Hills in San Francisco. Good to see you. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. If you like this episode, please share it with friends.
To find more episodes, search Jere Metcalf Podcast on any platform for podcasts, or go to JereMetcalfPodcast.com. That's JereMetcalf podcast.com.